Welcome to the Faculty and Academic Staff Forum. I'm Heather Johnson-Schmitz. I'm the Manager of Grants and Contracts in the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs. We want to give our thanks to CEDO for the space and LTS for all their technical support for this series. And welcome all of you. Today, we are very happy to have our presenter, Dr. Briana Rockler, Assistant Professor in Public Health and Environmental Studies. And her research here at UW-Eau is focused on biopsychosocial, approaches to food literacy and health promotion. Title you can read on the screen there. Before I turn it over to Dr. Rockler, I just want to mention we'll take a few minutes at the end for questions or comments. If you are joining us virtually, you can use the Q&A to type your questions, and our wonderful grad student Matt will read them for you. Without further ado, you're welcome.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So today I'm going to be presenting kind of a conglomeration of a few different research projects that have been going on for the past couple of years here on our campus. So the title is Food Environments and Healthy Students, Food Preferences and Dietary Behaviors within the context of the campus food environment. Just a little bit of background before we begin here. It should go without saying that eating a healthy diet is a key to a happy and healthy life. Really having access to the foods that not only are nutritious for us, but actually we want to be eating, can set us up for not only success throughout the rest of our day, but can set us up for health behaviors for the rest of our lives. This is why this is really important on a college campus. Food environments might be a new title to some of you. There are a few different ways to define this, but generally we're talking about the spaces in which people make decisions about food, the food and drinks that are made available within those spaces, and how accessible they are, how affordable they are, and how desirable they are within the environment that surrounds you. So we're talking about the built environment here. So not just our naturally occurring, but things that are provided to us and how we can interact with them. So the food environment within tertiary education settings, we're talking about college campuses, we're talking about university campuses. They have an important role in influencing dietary behaviors, not only among students, which is what we're largely focusing on today, but also among the faculty and staff that work at that institution. We spend a lot of our time on the university campus, not only as students, who a lot of them live on campus as well, but a lot of times we're here from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. at night, and we don't get a chance to go home, or if we do, it's pretty quick. So definitely playing a huge role in the food behaviors that we're able to engage in every day. We also know that 41% of college students are experiencing food insecurity, and that number obviously is an average. It can be a lot worse for populations that are already disadvantaged in other ways. Low income students that are non-traditional, so they might have families at home they're trying to support. They might be older in age. So even if we are on a college campus and we have lots of food options available to us, are we able to afford them? That's a great question. Access to plentiful, healthy, nutritious, and appetizing food is paramount to educational success. We can't learn unless we're well fed. We can't learn unless we have the energy in our brain to learn and the nutrients in our brain to learn and absorb those things. I teach this from, in our global health class from a very, very young age, that we need to make sure that children are eating, but it doesn't change. The college students on our campus are emerging adults. They're not yet considered full-blown adults. So they still need to be fed. They still need to be nourished. They still need to be taken care of. We also have an issue with the way that foods that are provided on college campuses and the social norms that are set. So when we see our friends engaging in dietary behaviors or even health-related behaviors, that's going to change the way we also do those behaviors. So if we see all of our friends are eating processed foods and snack foods for breakfast every day, we're going to say, oh, okay, if they're doing it, I can do it. This also changes our lifetime risk or exposure to basically highly processed foods, which can change our risk for heart disease, diabetes, stroke risk, medical definition of obesity, or being overweight, which isn't necessarily the way our body looks, but the medical complications that surround those things. This all sets us up for looking at our own campus a little bit here, why it's important. We know that our campus in particular is in a food desert. This is taken from a USDA map looking at low income and low access tracts. So that means that 33% of the low income population is living more than half a mile from the nearest supermarket or large grocery store. Poverty rate there, or living below like at low income definition, is a poverty rate over 20%, or median family income is less than 80% of the state median family income. So we're looking at our campus here. Let's see, little laser. We're set right here. We're in the purple. That's not good. Purple's not good. This is, issues where we're having access to, areas where we're having issues with access to food for low-income populations. Most of our students live here or here. This is all purple. Yellow, we're starting to get access. So, you might think just across one street here shouldn't make a huge difference. It does. Again, that's why this is important. So the objective of this research is really to explore the influence that food has on UWEC student dietary behaviors. I'm presenting data from two different studies. One study has two different arms to it, using mixed methodology, so some survey data and some in-depth interview data. The first study is looking at the perceived food environment. So we used a 49-item survey that was designed to capture both student and community members' perceptions of the nutrition environment that surrounds them. Nutrition environment, food environment are used synonymously in these contexts. We use the Nutrition Environmental Measures Perceived Nutrition Environment Survey that was developed by UPenn, but we did do some tweaking to it, some revising to it to capture the issues that follow on the UW Eau Claire campus. And to do these surveys, to capture survey data, to help redesign those surveys, I worked with 49 undergraduate student researchers that were enrolled in Honors 328, which is Food Environments and Healthy Communities. So it was all student-led efforts, a lot of like the sampling regions, things like that. It was decided by students. I've only been here for 3 years. I don't know as much as the students do about the campus food environment. So I was letting them kind of guide this. Our sample was a convenient sample of students and community members. The students in those classes were asked to ask their friends, other students in their classes for feedback on the survey, and then also capture community members as they came across them. We used chi-square tests and logistic regressions to explore associations across various variables. But that's the boring part. Sample characteristics. So for this survey, we had 160 respondents over 2 years, 131 students, 29 community members. We oversampled students for a reason. They're our key demographic that we're looking at. We did have a very significant skew of female students responding to the survey with 70%. Then we had a quarter were male and 5% were non-binary or self-described. And then 93% were non-Hispanic white, 5% Asian, 2% Hispanic. This is actually pretty representative of our sample, our student, I guess, demographics. So some key findings here. We only had 3 people say they walk to get to a food outlet to get their groceries for the week. And this is their preferred food outlet. So there might be a store that's closer to them, but that won't be where they do the majority of the shopping. It might be too expensive for them. It might not carry the foods that they like. This is only asking about where they go to get most of their groceries. We had 2 people take the bus or public transportation. We had 145 people. That's 90.63% of our sample population driving their own car. Interesting that that's a bike there. that is wrong. Look at this over here. And then we only had 9 people get a ride with family or friends. Even in the students that we asked if they had a roommate with a car, they still generally went to get their groceries on their own without their roommate. Let's talk about walking distance. So we looked at the differences between students and community members in their walking distance to get to stores, fast food restaurants, and sit-down restaurants. There were no significant differences between students and community members for fast food restaurants or sit-down restaurants, indicating that they probably had about the same access to like restaurants or prepared food for them. But to get to the store, more students reported having to walk over 20 minutes, which is considered to be more of a barrier to access a food store than community members. We adjusted for like the differences in the sample sizes using different weights. So that was a significant variable. Looking at food access, these are all significant, quite significant. So students were like almost 13 times more, had 13 times more higher odds of reporting frequent concern about having enough money to eat nutritious meals. So this was our kind of measure of gauging food insecurity or experiences of food insecurity. Food insecurity looks different to different people. This was just the measure that we had, but 13 times is a lot more compared to the community members. Of our students, we had, I guess, against 4 students had 8 times the odds of reporting that they feel they don't eat enough healthy foods compared to community members. And then also 8, closer to 9, feeling like they don't eat the kinds of food they would like to eat. Again, this is compared to community members. So we're having issues with our students experiencing food insecurity and then feeling like they're eating healthy foods and the foods that they like to eat. Students are most concerned about taste and cost of their foods when they shop and when they order food out. So 88% were ordering because they like the taste of the food that they eat, and 63% were ordering because it was cost effective for them. So that just tells us a little bit about how students are making food decisions for themselves. Moving on to a different study here, we'll bring it all together in the end. We studied convenient eating on campus. So kind of the role of vending machine usage, and then also how students navigate eating environments when it comes to having to eat quickly. So these efforts were mostly led by Sierra Roski, who's a public health major. She's also in the Masters of Public Health program. She led survey development and conducted in-depth interviews for this research. There was a 23-item survey that was distributed via email. It was a Qualtrics survey looking at vending machine usage. And then the in-depth interviews generally focused on the factors that influence food choice. So there was another convenience sample here. We used chi-square test and logistic regressions, and then used grounded theory thematic analysis to look at the qualitative data. Sample characteristics here. So again, we had kind of two different things going on. For our survey, we had a response of 346 students. Again, 70% female, 23% male, 7% non-binary or self-described. It was 92% non-Hispanic white, 7% Asian, 1% Hispanic. And then in terms of like grade distribution, it was pretty much like a quarter for each freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. And then we had a few other non-traditional students in there. For the interviews, there were 10 students interviewed. We had quite a hard time recruiting students. 8 were female. Again, 2 were male. So we're having like pretty much the same weights for the genders. None were non-binary or self-described. 9 were white, 1 was Asian, and those ages were 18 to 23 years old. So these are only key findings. I think just like the most interesting pieces. So we found that students that identify as female have 1.57 times the odds of reporting that they stress eat, more than 2 times a week. And that's compared to students that identify as male. There was no difference in students that reported that they were non-binary or they self-described their status. We also found that students who report stress eating 2 or more times per week had 8.36 times the odds of reporting that they think food insecurity is a problem that our students face on this campus. I was kind of looking at if there was any interaction between, maybe gender and sex and like reporting that they think food insecurity is an issue. That was not significant. So there might be something going on here in terms of just being aware of your eating environment and then being aware of the eating environments of others or food environments of others and the struggles that others are dealing with as well. So from our in-depth interviews, I have picked, some themes that we can focus on and then some key quotes that can kind of guide us through here. So we found that students grow tired of the food available to them on campus the longer that they're on campus. By the time that they are about to graduate, they are sick of eating on campus and they are ready to hit the road. So we had one student said it was convenient, but the food wasn't always the best. Speaking about their previous experiences living on campus, a different student said, I only eat on campus when I don't have time to get better food off campus. We had another student say, when I was a freshman, I ate every meal on campus. Now I eat every meal off campus. We also found that students had desires for closer access to affordable food. This is pretty consistent with what we're seeing with their need for a car in order to go purchase food. We had one student say, I really wish I could take my bike to go to some bigger grocery store. Again, we have smaller grocery stores available, but that is not generally the demographic that is serving students. We had another student say, as a student, we get so busy, especially with classes, and there's a lot of things going on. Like once the week starts, everything just comes. So you want food to be accessible as you can, if possible. You don't want to travel as much. If it's walking distance, that's much better. We also found pretty significantly here, and again, this is not any significance in terms of statistical methods, but something we found very to be a salient characteristic here was difficulties with food allergies or special diets, specifically anyone who eats vegan or vegetarian or halal on this campus. So we had one student that said, I accidentally ate tree nuts in granola on upper campus. They decided to change it without notice. I get supply chain issues may have caused it to be different and they cannot control that, but at least label it. We had another student say, it is a hard change. You have to be very careful, like contamination wise and stuff like that. So then the last piece, and it was hard choosing just a few quotes here because it was just across the board. But general taste preferences, most people reported having issues with it. So one student said, it is a common thing, just to not like it. Another student said, I just didn't really enjoy eating the food. Like, I didn't really think it tasted that good. I think they make up for the quality in the quantity of food served. Another student said, someone needs to tell my Facebook algorithm to quit feeding me Weight Watchers ads. The campus meal plan is already an effective weight loss plan. We know that food shopping in Eau Claire is inaccessible for our students. Students need a car on this campus. It's not technically supposed to be considered a commuter campus. We have students that live on campus. We have students that live around campus, and yet our students still need a car in order to survive here. The food available on campus may not be meeting student needs. You know, an informal social media analysis will show you that, specifically if you look at Rate My University, pretty widely, everyone's like, great campus, food's terrible. Great campus, the food is college campus food. We know that the reported food insecurity here is significantly higher than the local community. So there's something going on in terms of accessibility to at least the foods that we like to eat and that we feel are healthy for us. The dangers of cross-contamination is a serious safety issue, especially for our students that have major food allergies or even students that just get pretty sick from it. They're going to miss class if they can't trust the food that they're eating. We also know that students prefer to eat tasty foods, believe it or not. This is a food justice issue. If students aren't enjoying the foods that they're eating and that are available to them, they're not going to be happy with their educational experience. Many college campuses are in the exact same boat. Though college students expect that their college campus will feed them healthy foods, though they expect that they will control issues like cross-contamination, though they think that their tuition dollars are being paid for those things, across the board, this is a pretty rare trait within a university or a college campus. We know that college students generally have poor eating habits. When they come in as emerging adults. They generally have been fed their entire lives. So in terms of, food literacy or how knowing how to prepare foods, knowing key issues with food safety, knowing what to buy in order to prepare foods, most of the students are getting that information from TikTok these days. University selection is based on the campus environment these days. Increasingly, they're seeing students are not choosing a campus because of the education that they're going to get. They're choosing a campus because of all the amenities that are surrounding them at that campus. And that includes wellness resources like, having a nice gym available to them, having different types of physical activity classes or meditation classes that they can take, but also the food. The food is a huge piece of that. Students are choosing campuses based on what they can eat on that campus. There are some limitations to this, obviously. We're only looking at this campus, so I'm not going to infer to any other campus. And it's self-reported, so it's just student opinions. We don't know objectively. We're not sitting there measuring students' diets to see, is it true that you're eating as terrible as you think you are? But what you believe about yourself in a health promotion capacity tends to be true and will determine your path for future health problems as well. Participant sample recruitment was obviously a convenient sample, and we oversampled students. So it may skew towards students who are particularly concerned about food on campus. Students who don't care about food on campus might have been like, I don't want to take your food environment survey, whatever you want me to take right now. We also, again, have a limited sample of community members. That might be a next step thing to look at other community members as well. But I don't think it'll change what we know or what we found to be true for the students on the campus. Conversation starters here in the last few minutes that we have. I think the first piece here, and especially as a faculty member here, I think I ask, what does supporting student success look like? We are charged with this. We are charged with, creating a campus environment that's really healthy for students, and that they're happy and they can thrive in. But it only goes so far if the campus environment is not doing those things for them. So the question is, who's responsible for successes of emerging adults? And does it stop at the food environment? Do we also have to provide education regarding food preparation? Do we also have to provide education even around physical activity guidelines, opportunities to engage in those things? Another question is, what does food justice look like on a college campus? Food justice, we're talking about food insecurity with food justice, but we're also talking about access to foods that help us thrive, foods that are culturally appropriate for us. If I'm eating a vegan diet, I can access vegan foods on my campus. That's food justice. That is food that is serving me. And, it also expands into environmental justice. Where's that food coming from? Is it good for our climate? We do have some initiatives that focus on food waste on our campus. And that's, taking steps in the right direction. So that is the question. Does it go beyond food that is served to students? Are there other ways we can source the food? Do we know where the food is sourced? Where is it coming from? And I also see some pretty distinct opportunities here in regards to UW-Eau Claire, in regards to its position within Eau Claire. Eau Claire, you saw the surrounding community. It's all in a food desert. It's not just our college campus. So the question is there an opportunity for our school to be more of a destination within the community where people will go to get foods that they find delicious, to get foods that they find life-affirming? Can, that boost the economy on our campus a little bit? And then also student engagement in the campus food system. We have many other universities that employ students to carry out their food initiatives, to basically make the food, to serve the food, to sell the food. That's a resource for students who might need some financial support that is also not generally being provided here. There's some references for you all, and that's it. I'd love to hear your question. Yeah, so that was, how do I repeat that question? Is tasty synonymous with healthy? I think is how I would repeat that question. And how does that, how do for students, is healthy the same thing as tasty? I would say that is a food justice question. So food justice, again, is grounded in the principles of environmental justice. So not only are we looking at ability to access foods that are healthy for us, but also, and by healthy, I mean nutritious, generally eating per the dietary guidelines that are set by the USDA, but also foods that you enjoy is in there. We know that enjoying your food also leads to better eating habits. It lets you be more attuned to your body and improves the mind-body connection if you're enjoying what you're eating. I would say we know that college students don't eat well, but there is also an opportunity in terms of tasty and healthy, is making healthy foods, nutritious foods, tasty, and giving students the opportunity to sample them in that way. Where there is room where students can go enjoy, a hamburger and French fries, but then they can also enjoy, a whole grain noodle bowl with lots of vegetables. And you can eat those things and develop taste for both. So I don't think generally for a college student, it's not something we measured. And again, that's why self-report data can be problematic. But there's opportunities for combining tasty with nutritious at the same time. Yes.
So this is more of a comment, or I'll start with question part. So with this convenience sample and then the smaller, no, I mean, there was many more students, 300 and some in that second one you introduced, but still I've collected a lot. I mean, have you ever been able to, or was there a reason why you didn't have some kind of incentives built in to try and get more people to take your survey.
We did have incentives for the in-depth interviews, but they just were not enough apparently. Being like a research embedded course, we didn't like plan any incentives around that. I have learned that providing incentives on this campus is very difficult.
Yeah, it can be.
Maybe you have some
Maybe
tips
I
for
have
me.
tips.
I will also say that another limitation of that first study is that I've learned with the students in the classes, and maybe Aaron can attest to this, is that like trying to get an entire study done in one semester is
Oh, yeah.
nearly impossible. So yeah, I think like a multi-year planning of how this will happen, and planning for things like incentives and how we sample, is a good idea, but also keeping it student-led because they know the community better than I do. Yeah. Yes.
So just curious about comparing data that you have to similar types of data. I know that periodically Sodexo does surveys of
Mhm.
students' satisfaction, right?
Yeah,
On with campus food.
I did look at some of
Do you have
those.
access to those? Yeah, that's my question. Do you have access to those? Was there areas of agreement or areas of contradiction between your data and theirs?
It was pretty, so like it looked at obviously different things than what we looked at. Like they didn't look at like shopping outside of campus. They didn't look at like car issues, things like that. In terms of what students like to eat, yes, it was pretty consistent with students want better food on the campus. And I also in the interview data, you saw that students were like, it's a work in progress. They're trying. You can tell they're trying. So that's good. That's a good thing. Yes.
Did you measure where students live?
For the second convenience eating study we did, yes.
Were there differences between campus and off campus?
No, it wasn't, at least it wasn't significant for that study, but we were also looking at like convenient eating while they're on campus. So that's probably why it didn't really, it didn't really show anything. That is a future step for the like perceived nutrition environment. And that's actually something that the first class identified was, there was a very small sample of students that still lived on campus answering the questions. So a lot of the students were answering questions about the resources that are available to them off campus. And obviously that would influence whether they use a car or not. So yeah. So that was a USDA map. It was from 2019. So I know that Menominee Market didn't, at least, well, if we go to, yeah. Yes, it was much smaller. But it would have been within this sampling region, right?
Just off the top of the map.
Yeah, okay. Is it over? Yeah, I don't, clearly my Eau Claire geography is like, I don't know.
The river on the top edge of the map.
Okay.
Above the E.
Well, yeah, that's where it is now.
Right.
Yeah, previously.
Yeah, right.
Because this is 2019, so it would have been its old location. Either way, I think the key issue is, in terms of those resources, is we are looking here at living more than 0.5 miles, so half a mile from a supermarket or a large grocery store, because those are the outlets where they're going to have, if you remember, competitive like markets for the foods that they sell. So things tend to be more cost effective, especially for students. Yeah, most of our students reported shopping at Walmart. So yes.
But even then, the Quick Trip on Water Street would have been there. I've never been into Quick Trip, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are real groceries
Well,
available.
onions,
Maybe I'm thinking of
potatoes,
There were references to using Quick Trip for drunk food. We did ask about using Quick Trip, and that was overwhelmingly the response. Yes. Mhm.
Oh, I was just commenting on the Quick Trip.
Oh, yeah.
So there's like a very small grocery section.
Oh, yeah.
But it can be up to like triple the price of like.
Mhm.
Very small. But if you want like a jar, of food, but it's still more cost effective to make the drive up to.
That should really.
Unless you want it now.
Yes.
I was gonna say, I'm surprised that, you know why people said Walmart over Woodman's?
Woodman's was the second leading reported grocery store. I'm not sure why. It might have been like my presumption, and my presumptions can be very wrong, so don't take this as fact. Would be that people establish their like habits, food shopping habits with their parents. So it's likely that they were living in an area where there was no Woodman's. And so they started shopping at Walmart. That's where my mom and dad shop. That's where I'll shop. Yeah. I have been terrible at repeating the questions, even though you asked me to. I'm so sorry.
Well,
Was there anything in your farmer's market, in your survey about farmer's market? knowledge?
We did ask about the farmer's market. There was very limited use of the farmer's market.
So I think
students-
if we're talking about the stuff on your last slide, right, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm thinking to myself about educating kids when they come here and having to farm these things, and they probably are in orientation a little bit, but they're inundated by things, but
Yeah.
this first year experience stuff that we're supposed to be doing is supposed to continue to mention these things to our kids in a variety of settings in these early classes, but we
Yeah.
often have too much to teach, so just to understand. We could all do a better job there. And I think
Also,
there used to be a garden in the courtyard of Phillips
Heard
Hall
that.
a long time ago.
Mhm.
With a group called the Foodlums, and there could be more urgency to get something like that going around here that, again, it didn't feed the campus, but it was a symbol, and they did some stuff and
yeah.
talked about stuff.
And that, I mean, yeah, that's an educational outlet. It's a topic of conversation, at least, that would establish Eau Claire or UW Eau Claire as a food hub more within the community. Yeah.
And we did more elementary school gardens in
Yeah.
our communities, and when kids arrived from all different places to here, and then there was a garden here too, that would make a lot of sense to them.
Yes, we had one of our students doing their capstone, starting a school garden at Longfellow Elementary last summer.